Welcome to the Enter the Mind podcast.
The most real talk, no nonsense podcast on the empowering of the mind.
Why enter the mind? Because it's that room in your house that's been there all along that you've never gone into.
Well, now it's time to enter with two mind coaches dedicated to self-help and the thriving of all human beings.
I'm Kyra Carlin.
And I'm Robert Nelson.
Welcome to Enter the Mind.
In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about how to thrive after the pandemic. We did an episode on how to thrive during the pandemic. And now as things are opening up, we're going to do an episode. It's going to be a short one, a little mini podcast on how to thrive after the pandemic. This is a question that has just come up in the minds of the people and the listeners. So we're going to launch into it. How are you this week, Kyra?
I'm doing absolutely great. I just enrolled in a free physics course, and it's really interesting. So I'm excited about that. How are you?
Whoa, you're going to bring some fire to the podcast with all of our connections between psychology and physics.
I know, right?
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's gotten some huge insights from that reality transurfing book. You commented on my Instagram, just really good stuff. That this is exactly what I wish I had learned when I studied psychology in university. But they have zero clue what's going on and with the mind, and that's why we do this podcast. So, so what would be your initial answer to this question of how can one thrive as we come out of the pandemic?
Well, first of all, I think that the important thing to do is, number one, kind of take a look back at everything that you did during the pandemic. Like, what were your favorite lessons that you learned? What were your favorite insights? Just what are little things that you learned? Write them down, get them all in a bulk. And when, life really gets back to normal and, things really start opening up and we really don't have to wear masks anymore, you will be prepared to connect. You will be self-controlled. You're not going to be a wild animal screaming like a banshee through the streets because, we don't have to wear our masks anymore. I think it's just important to really ground yourself before you head back out into the world as, somebody new. Because if y'all haven't noticed, we've been in motherfucking lockdown. In some places have to be in at 8 p.m. We've been on this for over a year. It has been a whole fucking year. So, the world has changed and the world will be different when you come back out into it. So the best thing to do to prepare yourself is check out those lessons and those insights and really ground yourself, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned ground yourself, because that's exactly what I was thinking. It's tempting when things open up and it's like, oh, the end of the pandemic. It's tempting to just go to the other extreme and go into banshee mode, as you said, right? Just be like, oh yeah, all the restrictions lifted. Yeah, I'm going wild, right? But the problem with the extreme is that also what goes along with that is sometimes people might think, oh, there's going to be no more problems, or, oh, I don't have to monitor things anymore. But the whole point of, or the whole strategy to maintaining stability in life, I think, is monitoring things, monitoring your finances, monitoring your physiological state. How much sleep did you get? Did you get enough sleep? What's your current, what's the current flow of energy through your system? That sort of a thing. And so when people come out of, that's this period, the doors open and they run outside, it's nice to enjoy that, like have fun, appreciate the reopening, but at the same time stay grounded and stay connected to almost like this stoic philosophy of like, you know, it's not going to be perfect. Good things will happen, bad things will happen, but in the middle of that all, I'm clear. I'm clear thinking. I'm grounded. I'm logical, and I'm here to improve the world as best I can.
Mm-hmm. Completely agreed. And I like the way that you say monitoring things, because it's good to check out. I think also, like, when, you know, masks come off and everything, I think that it's really good to monitor your current state of mind. Like, how am I currently feeling? What is my current viewpoint on the world? And, you know, so before you go out and you really start socializing again, things really start getting normal, you don't lose track of who you became in this past year. And I think that that comes when you don't take the time to kind of take a little second and monitor how you're feeling. I last night I was taking my physics course, and I watched like 2 videos. It was really interesting. I was really grounded, really chilling. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have a goddamn glass of wine, right? So I had a big old glass of wine. But before I had a big old glass of wine, I sat there for a moment and I thought, okay, what do I think of this man who's teaching me right now? And I thought, well, he's kind of well put together. His accent isn't too well, and the voice is really low, but overall, he knows what he's talking about. And I was like, okay, well, how do I feel? I was like, I feel good. My windows are open, air is breezing in, you know, everything is good. So that way, when I have my cup of wine, if I start, you know, thinking and I'm like, oh, this guy's great. Oh, I'm feeling great. But I never took the time to monitor that I was feeling great even before the glass of wine, then it could become a habit of me thinking that the glass of wine is why I'm feeling great. You know, so it's like when you step out into the pandemic, it's, you know, monitor how you're feeling, get grounded in how you're feeling. So that way you're not like placing your happiness on the outside circumstances. Like, oh, I'm so happy now because, you know, we're allowed out, but no, because you were happy before. You're just a little bit happier now. I don't know if that made sense, but I hope it did.
Oh yeah, it definitely did. And it made me think of what I've discovered in the last several weeks to be this newfound internal stability, that almost like my mind is nice dance.
Thank you.
Almost like, I was going to say my mind is my best friend, but it's more of like my mind. It's more, I know it sounds cheesy, right?
No, not at all.
No, more of like my mind is like my assistant, or my mind is that well-trained dog, that like a police canine that's like well-behaved and that will attack any negativity in the environment, right? It's like very well-trained, well-behaved, and it serves me. And the result of that is I'm no longer, like, I was reading a business book recently, and there's a great quote in it that said, every morning you should approach your day as if things are, or as if shit's about to hit the fan, you know?
Okay.
And I think there's a lot of value in that. Like, if you approach each day like, okay, just a million things are going to go wrong, whatever, internally, mentally, you kind of stabilize yourself before you face that, because you're like, all right, I'm going to have to be at the top of my game. Things are going to go wild and crazy today. Things are not going to go as I want them to go. Wild and crazy in the negative sense, not the good sense.
Oh yeah.
And you know, and it's almost like you prime yourself, you prime your mind, and it's almost like you become a little less thrown around by the environment. Like, you become a little bit, if XYZ events happen, like, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not, oh no, this thing is happening, and I'm knocked off my, you know, my stability or whatever. You kind of anticipate those things happening. So I like it. I feel like, you know, like a mental warrior or something, like a, you know, psychological warrior.
It's First of all, I'm really happy that you're feeling that way. And I love that. I feel like I'm getting there as well. I definitely feel like my mind has been more acute to what's going on in like my everyday life. And I think that my new job actually has a lot to do with that, because it's like I go in thinking like, you need to be on your fucking game. Like, this is a job and it's getting you extra money and you need to be on your game. So, you know, I go in thinking like, well, what if I do something wrong? Okay, we'll do something wrong, fix it. And, you know, it helps me really focus and really stay acute. And I think that that's a really good point for coming out of this whole pandemic, that there are things that are going to go wrong sometimes. You know, maybe the people who are screaming like banshees in the streets, you know, will come over and knock you over one night. And, you know, you're like, ruffles up your feathers, you know, but you have to be grounded and you have to be stable in your mind in order to handle these changes that are going on in the world. You know, I feel like that one of the biggest problems for people coming out of the pandemic will be the people who have been working really hard on their mental state or their bodies. Maybe they weren't drinking, I don't know. But whatever they were sticking to in this past year or the past 6 months, whatever it is, it can fly right out the window. It can fly right out the window because they're like, oh, back to normal life, time to get back to me. But it's like, you're not quote unquote you anymore. You've changed, and so is the world. So you need to, it's almost like, you know, you can't go into a new world as an old person because technically you won't really exist anymore. And I saw this somewhere. It's like, you know, when all of the people rise up to, you know, accustom themselves to the new ways of living and the new thoughts and everything, if you refuse to change, you will be living in a world that no longer exists. So you are completely disconnected from modern day reality. And yeah.
Right. It makes me think of adaptability. And just being, I mean, the whole history of this planet is a history of adaptability and organisms, you know, evolving and, you know, Darwin's finches. And, you know, if the seeds on your island are really big seeds and then you're going to have to eat those, then you need a beak that's strong enough to smash those seeds if you're going to eat. And so it's just all about this adaptability. So yeah.
I really like that you have to have beak to mash the seeds. I've never heard that before and I absolutely adore it. But yeah, okay, so then I guess now that we've kind of talked about like how to thrive coming out of the pandemic, how can we put it into a way that we can give our listeners an answer? Like what is the ultimate answer for thriving when you come out of the pandemic? What is, you know, what's your summed up answer that you can give to our listeners?
Well, you know me, of course, I'm going to give a deep ass answer to this.
Of course. Well, I wouldn't expect anything less.
So what I would tell people to watch out for is, I mean, it all comes down to mindset, as you know. And so watch out, I would tell people, watch out for a dependency mindset. And what I mean by that is dependency on your environment. So people think, oh, the government said I can go outside now and I don't have to wear a mask. Yay, now it's time to celebrate. So basically my emotional state is dependent on other people telling me what I can and cannot do. And that's a bad frame of mind to be in, right? It leads to dependency on your environment. Now, the opposite view would be independence, right? So what goes on in here is independent of what's going on out there. My behaviors, my actions, and my responses to the environment are going to depend on what's going on in my environment, because I'm going to manipulate my environment to solve every problem that comes up throughout the day. But my internal compass, my internal guide is going to be the exact same every single day. And that compass is, I'm here to win. I'm here to solve any problem that comes up, and no problem stands a chance against me because my mind is controlled by me, and I'm here to control the rest of my environment.
That was a spectacular answer. Thank you, Robert.
You want to wrap up with your answer to the question of how people should come out of the pandemic?
Okay, so I think that my answer would be to not go back to who you used to be. I think that that is just the biggest thing in this entire world. Right when that pandemic hit and you had to stay inside, you were a specific person. But it has been a year. It has been over a year, and it will be over a year once the masks and everything fully come off and everything goes back to normal, and you are not the same person. So I think that one of the best ways to thrive when you come out of the pandemic is to embody and embrace who you have become. Go over those lessons that you learned, go over those insights, go over like wrong things that happened that you had fixed, and, you know, just really stay grounded and embrace and embody that new version of you, because you are not stepping into the same world. You are stepping into a new one, which requires a new you, which requires a stronger beak to chomp the seeds. And one more thing, I think that seriously, it's just like important. Like, are we all fucking stupid or something? Wash your fucking hands. When you're at the grocery store and you go home, wash your hands. When you're out all day touching things, don't put your fingers in your nose. Don't put your fingers in your mouth. Wash your fucking hands. Don't go, you know, all ape shit and shit. Like, this whole pandemic happened because people are fucking, it's like they don't realize that they're in real life. This is real life. We are not in celestial heaven. We are not in celestial souls without a body running around Earth. We are here on Earth, and this is real life, and real things can happen. So just wash your fucking hands and keep yourself clean. It's simple, very simple.
Yes, advice that I would say is very much grounded in reality. And sometimes we just have to come back to the fundamentals. But I really like what you said about embracing who you've become, because it's such an important principle of alignment with reality and what is, versus expending unnecessary psychic energy on wanting to be something different than you are. So I think, yes, from an energy perspective, it's a much cleaner approach, streamlined, cleaner approach to living. So
agreed.
Great. All right. So we'll see everybody in the next episode. If you have ideas for what content you would like, then please write that in the comments. And until then, how can people find you on Instagram?
You can find me at Soul Design Future on Instagram. Yeah, let's get it.
Perfect. And I'm at Existence First, all one word, lowercase. We'll see you all next week.